What's up, everyone? I'm Patrick Mahoney. I'm an executive producer and director with 13th Frame Studios.
Hey, I'm Chas Chester. I'm an executive post producer and a senior editor with 13th Frame Studios.
Hey guys, my name is Mike Ingalls. I'm an executive producer and chief drone pilot with 13 Frame Studios.
And this is 13 Takes, a podcast about video production from the founders of 13th Frame Studios, a brand new video production agency based in Southwest Florida. We're here to talk about our stories and kind of the growth and development of our company, and this is the journey to tag along with.
Yeah, whether you're a filmmaker, a business owner, or somebody that's just completely interested in video production, our goal is to give you insights and useful knowledge about video production process and the film industry at large.
So if you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below, and we'll do our best to address it in a future episode.
Today's episode is about an introduction of who we are and how 13th Frame Studios came about. Again, I'm Patrick Mahoney. I'm originally from Missouri, and I ended up going to a school up in St. Louis, Missouri for college, and I got my film production degree there. After that, I moved to Atlanta to freelance in the film and television industry. I worked on a handful of movies, a couple TV series, some music videos, and a bunch of other small indie projects. I hit a point where I wanted to kind of further develop myself and my career, and so I ended up taking a full-time job with an advertising agency that brought me to Southwest Florida. At that advertising agency, that's where I met Chas. And then after working there for a few years, learning a little bit more about producing and getting better at directing, I ended up getting offered a full-time position as head of a video production team on an internal marketing team of a corporate company. And that's kind of where I'm at today, outside of helping start 13th Frame Studios.
My backstory is pretty similar to Patrick's. I'm originally from another part of Florida. I've moved in and out of the state a few times now, just going wherever the work is. I originally got into filmmaking back in high school, and from there I went on to a film school up in New York at NYU. And after that, I went to an advertising agency, which is where I first worked on projects with Patrick. Then the content production house. I worked on a Netflix series for a bit. Freelanced for a couple of years, and now I'm back in Southwest Florida working as the lead editor on the marketing team.
Yeah, my background's a little bit different than both of theirs. I'm born and raised in Southwest Florida. I'm self-taught. I first started getting into drone videography, working on cell phone towers, and once I left that industry, I started my own drone company called Big Eye Flies Aerial Photography and Videography. And we'll get into a further episode about the pros and cons of either going to film school or being self-taught. I just know that you don't need a degree to be part of a great team as long as you find a couple people that are good to collaborate with.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially after I moved down here from Atlanta to Florida working with the advertising agency. I walked in thinking I knew editing and understood editing, and then when I met Chas, I quickly learned that I only know a little bit about editing and that I'm not really into editing, which ultimately made me kind of shift focus to becoming a producer and focusing more on working behind the camera and directing as well. But being able to work with Chas on projects at the agency also led to me and him working on other projects outside of the agency. We both realized that we enjoy making short films, and we started like a writer's circle group together to be able to give notes and feedback with writers and to be able to like eventually make some of those films too. Not only that, but we kind of aligned on the same values and stuff that we wanted to accomplish on our own. We both wanted to kind of start our own company, and that's also where, like, at the same time, I'm talking with Mike while he's working security downtown. And we've known each other for a few years too, where when you first kind of started your drone business, you were asking me different questions about editing and other things. And that's where we kind of hit it off and got to know each other even more because of just talking back and forth on the weekends about video production and the different projects we were all working on.
Yeah, and one day one of my buddies had reached out to me and asked if I'd film a roller video of his McLaren, and since I specialize in drones and action cameras, I figured it'd be a good opportunity for me and Patrick to collaborate because he has a lot more experience in the handheld cinematic rigs and gimbals than I do.
And yeah, so the Mike reached out to me, and it seemed like a great opportunity for us to finally work together on a project. With my background in working on automotive commercials through the advertising agency, filming roller videos wasn't necessarily new to me, but it was new in the sense of being able to do it in a way that we could do it, right? It wasn't you have to do it this way because of compliance for this OEM or that store. It was a just fun project with a guy who has a really cool car, and it gave Mike and I an opportunity to see how well we work together. From there, Mike, we went location scouting. We tried to find some of the nicest areas for both drone and the gimbal shots that we were doing. There was a moment where I mentioned strapping me to the back of your car, and you thought I was crazy for doing that, but we did. We have shots, and it all turned out great, right? And so when the day came that we finally were shooting this roller video, I thought it was going really well. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but
No, yeah, it was going really well. And the point then we didn't catch note of that until the client actually made a statement, was asking us how long we've been working together, and he didn't know that it was our first project together.
Yeah, and even for our first project, like we both were very amazed with how well it went. We kind of fell within our lane. You doing the drone flying, and then me utilizing the gimbal. But then we were also still like kind of learning from each other, right? Because the way you utilized action cameras, I had never like thought about using it that way. One, because of like just how schooling happens, and then two, because of just the way I was taught for shooting commercials and stuff. And so it brought a unique perspective from both sides. And by the end of it, like, I really had a good time, and I'm sure you did too.
Yeah, we had a great time, and that's where we started getting the sense of maybe we can form this into something bigger than just us collaborating on regular projects.
Yeah, and so after that, we decided to edit the project. Mike took his shot at it. I ended up editing it, but then I brought Chaz into it threw it to Chaz to edit, because I just kind of wanted to introduce Mike to Chaz, but didn't figured this would be an easier way to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's really how I was introduced to Mike without ever actually meeting him in person. Just having a lot of experience working on teams of editors and kind of getting to see how different people work with the same footage. I had a pretty good sense of who he was and what he's about from his edit. Like, I could tell that he was new to this, but still very passionate and willing to learn, which is really the most important thing. So I look forward to working on more projects with him.
Yeah, so that really was the first project that we worked on as a team way before 13th Frame Studios was ever started. And if there's any takeaway for those people watching, it's you can be the most knowledgeable filmmaker out there, but if you're not willing to learn from others, then you're going to kind of be stuck. Like, you'll hit a point where you're not going to continue growing. And that's what makes this team so great, is we all come from different backgrounds. We have different experiences, and we're constantly learning off of each other.
Yeah, and I think that's what this project was really all about, was that got me to have that idea to approach you that one night and just said, instead of us collaborating and kind of having two different entities and confusing clients, that we should just, what if we developed a universal company that we could get bigger clients and not have them confused and be able to interact with them that way?
Normally, I will look at someone and go, yeah, let me think about that, and I try and run numbers on paper, but for whatever reason, when Mike approached me on that, I just immediately was like, yeah, let's do that. Let's go. And what's even crazier is at the point that he approached me, I had just started Creative Wolf Productions as an LLC. And so it was definitely daunting because I was already kind of going into a new era of things, new undiscovered territory that I've not done before. And so for me to say yes to it, I just kind of, I don't even know. It was interesting for sure, because that's not usually how I am, but it just felt right. And I look at it now and like, it's continued to feel right the whole time. We have all taken part within the company, different aspects, and we all wear multiple hats, but then we all work with each other on those hats. Like Chaz, you're overseeing our marketing. You're out there creating the content that's going out there and people are seeing. You built our website for us. Mike, you're free full-time running Big Eye Flies, and like, yeah, you're still working a little bit as a bouncer, but at the end of the day, you fell right into being our client acquisition person, where you can go knock on doors during the day, because Chaz and I both still work full-time jobs. But then what that's allowed for is it's allowed for me to be able to crunch the numbers, do the logistics, and come up with the creative concepts for the clients that you bring to us, the leads you have. And I think we've all like worked really well together in that form, which like ultimately, like that's what you want as a client and as a business. Like you want a team that is there for you. You want a team that knows how to just get into the trenches themselves and do the work. And there is no like, neither one of us are like, oh, hey, I'm doing all of this. Like so that's what's great about this team and this, like, again, looking back and saying yes to it, everything has just kind of fell in line and has been working really well. And I think a lot of that just attributes to we're all on the same page. We all have the same destination in mind, which is making 13th Frame Studios one of the greatest production companies out there, especially in Southwest Florida. But how did we come up with 13th Frame Studios? Like, how did we come up with that name?
We eventually created a Google Doc of a list of names that we were going to plan on using, and we would meet twice a week, and we just kept pinging these ideas off. And we actually ended up having so many names that we had to start researching which ones were actively used or not, and we had to start crossing them off. And we realized that a lot of names were already being used for the concept of like Florida in itself, of like Gulf Coast Studios. And one of the names that we landed on was Glass Wake Studios, which it sounded good on paper when we wrote it down, but when we started telling our family members and some of our friends what we were going to call it, they were just like, what are you guys even saying? And it didn't make sense at all. That they didn't get the concept of, we were talking about like a wake behind a boat.
Yeah. And so it felt like we went through hundreds of names, and any name that we came across that we liked outside of Glasswake was taken. And then, yeah, to Mike's point, it's like we're in Southwest Florida, so everything's coastal this, mangrove that, alligator whatever. And so one day I just decided to text Mike and Chaz separately, and I asked them Give me a lucky number.
And my lucky number originally being 13 because I was born on Friday the 13th. That's just the message I responded with.
I was in the middle of something. I don't remember what exactly. Either I was editing or maybe applying to jobs. And I just get that text from Patrick, and I'm like, is Patrick like betting on something? Like, what does he need a lucky number for? And 13's just always been one of my lucky numbers. So I gave him that.
Yeah, so after I received responses back from you guys, it's another reason why things have just kind of been lining up and have been falling into place, because for you both to send the number 13 back, and me knowing that 13 is my lucky number, it's always been in our family. Like, I've always just been associated with 13, and so the fact that the three of us all landed on 13 was, to me, kind of crazy. And
yeah, and the next morning, whenever you texted us in the chat saying 13 Frame Studios, I initially was just like, I didn't know that either of you had chosen 13, so I was initially like, oh, you didn't need to make the name 13 Frame Studios because I chose 13.
There's no inherent significance to the 13th frame of a video. Normally, when you think of a number in filmmaking, you're thinking about your frame rate, which would be like 24, 30, 60. But there's this old piece of advice that every frame of your movie should be like a painting. You should put thought into every single one of them because they all count, including, in our case, the 13th frame of our videos.
yeah, and so 13th Frame Studios brings a completely different vibe than just, I think, any traditional video production company. We've taken a immersive point of view to things with our background in storytelling, our background working in corporate, commercial, movies, television, that kind of stuff. We bring a plethora of equipment, from cinematic cameras to gimbals to drones and action cameras, which allows us to really showcase a way of telling our stories where you feel like you're experiencing it rather than just watching a video. Most people shy away from breaking the fourth wall because that's inherently or supposedly a no-no, but when you're shooting an event coverage kind of project, it makes it fun and inviting to be at that event when people are waving and smiling at the camera and interacting with the FPV drone as it flies by them. The other aspect too is, from a commercial standpoint, is what helps sell your product or your service is people being attached to your business emotionally, but then also like wanting to support you and be there. And I think that's where our immersion kind of gets people excited for that.
Yeah, and instead of us being the guys that we're labeled as the corporate guys, or a lot of people find their niches in certain industries of like, I'm the wedding photographer, videographer, I do event coverage only, or I make music videos. We kind of created our own style of things where, like Patrick had said, we create the immersive effect of things where we utilize all different kind of cameras to really bring the viewer into a feeling where they're actually experiencing the video, and almost whatever they're watching, they're experiencing that event or that time at right there in place.
And that's including this podcast, at least if you're watching the video side. We're using a 360 camera in the middle of a round table to kind of emulate the feeling of actually being here in the room with us, sitting with a group of friends, and getting to be part of the conversation.
Yeah, so you're going to experience the full journey of 13th Frame Studios from the ground up. You'll be right there alongside of us as you continue to watch this podcast for the decisions we make on how we decide to grow the company, for better or for worse. You'll be able to be right there during the celebrations when we win, and it's going to be a fun, exciting time.
Yeah, and we'll also have other business owners and other content creators on here as well, kind of explaining their journey and the path that they took along the way.
Ideally, this podcast is here to help inspire, entertain, and change the way you see things one frame at a time.
So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, be sure to like and comment and subscribe so you know when the next episode is out. Let us know if you have any questions or suggestions, and we'll be sure to take a look at them.
Once again, I'm Mike.
I'm Chaz.
And I'm Patrick.
And this has been our first episode of 13 Takes. Looking forward to seeing you on the next one.